What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is United vs. Everybody. I am your host, Sean, and we are back with a little bit of a fun scouting report, fun video. I did have some time this morning. I know that I originally scheduled this to go 5:30. Stuff's coming up later on, and I did end up getting a little more time. So apologies for anyone who was hoping to maybe jump on live later. I apologize, but we did go a little earlier. So you can always watch live later on. Not a problem, but we are going to talk a little bit today. We're going to talk about strikers. Now, I know, Sean, you've done like 87 videos on strikers this week. I know we did a lot of striker videos, but there are quite a few out there who I think would be excellent for our starting 11. You guys can go check out those videos. We did some on some young rising stars as well, so go feel free to check those out too. Make sure you leave a like on those videos when you do go check those out, though. But today, we're not looking at those kind of 20 or so strikers. We're looking at specifically today the two strikers that seem to be kind of splitting the United fan base when it comes to who we want. We want this guy. Do we want this guy? And those strikers are Benjamin Sesko and Ollie Watkins. We've seen those many, many times. Very different strikers. They both, in many ways, come with their own strengths, their own weaknesses. What makes them appealing to United, though? How would either of them fit? Would they even it? That's what we're going to look at today. So keep that in mind. We're going to do a deep dive today on both of them. We're going to take a closer look at both. We're looking at heat maps. We're looking at numbers. We're looking at percentiles, striker profile that they are, what sort of systems they might be ideal for, pros, cons, all that. So, and maybe by the time we wrap up, we'll have a clearer picture of maybe which one's a better fit. So, or if each one is even a good fit at all for United. So that's what we're going to do today. I'll let you guys decide as you go along. There is a poll live in the chat. For some reason, the chat is not showing up here on my screen. So apologies. I'm not sure what's going on with that, you guys. So if you guys are involved in the chat for some reason, it's not letting me. But I do see you, Danny. Thank you for jumping in today, my friend. I'm not sure why it's not letting me show those. Sometimes this platform I use is just having issues. It might be time to switch. So we'll keep that in mind. So sorry, apologies ahead of time for not being able to put chat screen, but it is what it is at this point. It's not even showing me like how many people are in here. That's weird, dude. So anyway, make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are new. Remember, check those memberships. We are on the road to 3K. Promise we will do a giveaway if we get to 3K before we kick a ball this season. So I think we can do it. We don't have that much left. What is like 400? I think we can easily get to 400 in the next couple weeks. So let me know you guys' thoughts. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe. Let's get stuck in, you guys. So let's talk first about this young man, Benjamin Sesko. So as you can see, obviously we all know a lot about him. RB Leipzig striker. Reportedly, this price is around 60 million, between 60 and 70 million is what I've seen. Young striker, 22 years old, good height. The guy is an absolute physical unit, almost 6.5 feet tall. Comes with a lot of pace, a lot of flair. He's actually really good on the ball in and around those boxes. He's got really good dribbling. Whatever his cons, he is a little inconsistent, and he is very limited in terms of just his contribution when he's not scoring goals. Like, he doesn't provide a whole lot of assists. He joined Leipzig from Salzburg a couple years ago. I know, right? That never happens. People never come from Salzburg to Leipzig. Contract to 2029. But reportedly, what we're seeing recently is Leipzig would be open again between 60 and 70 million. He's a modern forward, and he aims to combine pace and dribbling skills with power, poaching. He's a target man as well. He can play off the shoulder of defenders. He can do a little bit of everything. For a bigger guy, he's very fast, very good on the ball. I think they clocked him at like 35.5 kilometers an hour this season, which is very fast. Again, very good close control as well, kind of like what we used to see from Ibra, some Xerxes, some Benzema, that kind of thing. Very good at getting into a variety of positions, really good runs in the defense, drifting into those wide channels, dropping deep a little bit. He's doing a lot to try to get on the ball. And you can see his movement vary a little bit in given situations because Leipzig do play with him and Openda. So Sesko can drop deep, he can get ahead, he can interchange a little bit. So who's to say maybe with Cunha and Buemo that he wouldn't be able to do the same? His movement in the box, though, can be a little bit erratic at times. He can make the wrong runs quite often, something that we've seen a little bit from Rasmus Højlund. what are his numbers? Because obviously that's what everyone's going to be looking at here, right? What are his numbers these days? So you can see I broke it down the last couple seasons here, both of all comps and then in the league. Obviously, the league is where you're going to do your bread and butter. And I'm a little underwhelmed, not going to say. Obviously, on all comps, the goals look great, but we don't have Europe, so we need to worry about what he's doing on a weekly basis against the competition that he's going to be facing twice a season. Obviously, it's a big step up from doing the what's going on downward. You guys are funny. 21 goals, 6 assists in all comps last season. Only 13 goals, 5 assists in the league, though. So to me, that's not. I mean, that's less than what we get from Buemo, from Cunha, and whatnot. 18 goals in all comps the year before, only 14 goals. So literally, kind of going downward a little bit in his league output. You could say maybe arguably some of that has to do with Leipzig struggling a little bit last year. Who knows? But it doesn't make for good reading when you look at it that way. Really, what he's going to be ideal at is in a system where he's going to rely on quick transitions, high pressing, kind of like what we've seen from like Forest, Wolves, these kind of systems where we're pressing high up the pitch, we aim to win the ball back, and we aim to launch a transition attack real quick. I think he's also going to benefit, though, if he's the focal point of the attack, where the idea is to get crosses into the box or find him with line splitting passes from deep or early whipped in passes from wide areas from like the fullbacks. I don't think he's going to be ideal for systems that rely on more patient, more slow buildups. Look at his heat maps from the last couple of years as well. Kind of all over the place. Last year, a little more involved, again, in deeper areas, simply because with Openda as well, 2 quick, pacey strikers in a front 2 system. One of them is going to have to drop deep at given times. One of them is going to have to advance. So he is getting a little more involved in deep. He is trying to do more in terms of the buildup, but I haven't seen enough, really. And really, what's the point of the striker if you're not getting the box? The year before, much more heavily in the box. See that the red spot in the box, much higher, much more concentrated, and a little bit more central. He's getting more involved in wider areas these days. Now, whether that's because of a front 2 system, whether that he is trying to learn how to play a little bit more of a support role, up to you, you guys. You guys let me know. But needless to say, if you look back at the goals, he did outperform his XG last season by more than 2.5 goals. So what that says is that the chances that he's getting, he's making the most of the chances that he is getting. And so maybe it is the system that's making him suffer a little bit. Switching from being the focal point to being in a partnership is going to see you dip a little bit. Sort of like what we see from Amora at Wolfsburg. Front 2 partnership, sometimes that does impact your goal output. Ninth for goals in the Bundesliga total since he joined 2 years ago. So not awful, but you know, the Bundesliga, how many excellent players do they have in the Bundesliga strikers wise? If you're 9th in that list, that's not a good look personally. Wins nearly 60% of his aerials, which I'd kind of expect from 6.5-foot striker, right? But again, if you go back to what I said, he's very inconsistent in front of goal, which you can almost expect a little bit of from a young striker, but I'd expect more consistency when you consider the asking price. And that's not his fault. He doesn't decide the asking price. But if we're going to pay that much, I'd expect something closer to the finished article than what I've seen from Sesko. Now, an argument could be made that he is the finished article, but the finished article that he is just not good enough. That's up to you guys to decide. But he is a bit one-dimensional as well. And again, when we looked at from the numbers, the assist numbers, it's just he doesn't contribute a whole lot to the chance creation. 11 assists in all comps over 3 seasons is just not great. Now, again, he's a striker, so your assists aren't going to be the first thing that you look for from a striker. But in the modern game, for that price and what the system that we play, I would like to see him be able to contribute a little bit more as well in that regard. So it is what it is, though. Let's look at his percentiles for these last couple seasons as well. Again, he is above average when it comes to the goals. So, we can't deny that he's above average. But again, shot creating actions down, pass completion, touches in the opposition box last year saw a big dip. And if you look at the year before, it's not hard to understand why. Again, switching from being the main guy to being the partner, you are going to see that dip. You are not going to get as many touches in the box. But he is boosting a little bit. Again, winning those area balls, getting that. Again, his aerial duels are winning as well. He's getting a lot more of those numbers. Carries, again, compared to the year before, carries are much higher. Take-ons much higher. So he is being asked to drop deep and maybe contribute a little bit more. But maybe he's suffering a little bit as a striker. Now, again, In a certain system, that might be great, but again, it's more about what we're looking for at United. Do we need a striker who's going to keep doing that? We've got Cunha, we've got Mbuemo, we've got Xerxes. We need someone who's going to put away goals, and that's where my concern comes in. His reliance on pace and finding space could also see him struggling against some of the compact defenses that we've seen in the Premier League as well, especially with the slow buildup that we have seen from us recently. We definitely opt to pass it backwards to kind of work the ball up the pitch a little bit more than using counterattacks, which you're kind of missing out a bit. We've seen that many times with players like Garnacho and these fast-paced attackers that we have. We don't really utilize that now. We don't take advantage of space in behind. The final against Spurs is another good example of that, where it just seems like we're actively not wanting to do that, which if your striker is basically a Jamie Vardy, is it worth it to do that? We just allow the opponents to get back into their shape way too easily. Maybe Cunha and Mbuemo could open up things a little bit, though. You never know, but is it worth the risk, personally? Sorry, one more two-head. So I think he would represent Sesko a very big investment on the basis of basically potential alone. And I'm just not sure if that's enough for me personally. In this rebuild and the other positions that we need to strengthen, is spending that much on Sesko a wise decision? Oh, my chats are back up. Sorry. Is spending that much on Sesko a wise decision? This could be a Højlund situation kind of all over again, really, in the long run. Liverpool did just spend a crazy fee on Ekitike. They better hope he delivers. I don't want to be in another situation where we have to hope someone's going to deliver, right, off a big outlay. I'm all for rolling the dice on a striker. You guys saw that video I did the other day. I think there are some excellent strikers on there. All those strikers, though, I think could be just as good or even better than Sesko and wouldn't cost in half of what Leipzig are asking. 45 million tops for me, like I said the other day, in terms of Sesko. I just don't think I would spend that much more on. I just haven't seen enough to justify that. I also haven't seen enough for Ekitike to justify what Liverpool is spending. So again, you guys know my standards. I may be a cheap bastard, but I'm a cheap bastard all over the board, so it doesn't really matter. But you guys let me know what you think of Sesko so far. What's the poll saying so far? I want to get caught up on that. So far, 64% of you or 67% of you are going Sesko over Watkins. Interesting. Let me see. Let me get caught up on the chat, because now that it's working, Debasi, welcome back, says, which is exactly our system, but with an invisible midfield. Yes, we do have an invisible midfield. Big up, Debasi. Danny says, waste of money, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it could be like, he could end up doing well. The point is it going to be worth that money? You'd probably be overpaying as well. And again, kind of like Sancho and Antony, would you ever see that money ever again? Probably not. I don't think you would. Josh Wilson, welcome. Not sure on the fee for Watkins. Any ideas of what to be? Well, we're getting ready to talk about Watkins in a second. We're wrapping up Sesko here, kind of laying down the profile here. Debasi, what attracted my eye is he's a striker who can also put himself behind to defend and has cleared balls with his head. Let's see Watkins try to do that. Short guy. Yeah, Watkins is about half a foot shorter, which you guys know I don't really tend to focus so much on height. I think if you are a good athlete, you're good timing, you're good reading of the game. Like Licha wins a lot of aerial duels. Jules Koundé won a ton of aerial duels at Sevilla, and he's only like 5'10", 5'11". Like, I don't care too much about that stuff. But yes, Sesko, and again, your aerial prowess, your height as a striker will make a bigger difference if you're in a team with a system that does just put balls into the box, that does rely on a lot of these set pieces. Do we do that at United? This isn't Jose Mourinho. This isn't David Moyes. Remember Moyes, man. We had more crosses whipped into the box in one match than most of these players deal with an entire season of training. And so some systems, it definitely is more of an asset than others. But big up. Albert, welcome. We should go for Sesko and not Watkins. Well, get involved in those votes. I want to see what everyone says as we keep going along. Devas says, Real Madrid passed to Ronaldo. United passed to goalkeeper. Oh, God. Yeah, it's literally heart and mouth every time Onana's on the ball at this place. But you guys let me know. It's a lot of money for someone who, in my opinion, and as you see the goal output going downward, like Danny said, a lot of Bundesliga fans watch Sesko and they do think that he's kind of plateaued. They think that this is basically his level. That's not to say in the right system, the right club, under the right manager, maybe he could reach new heights. I don't know. But again, it's just about, is the ROI worth the risk? Is the potential going to be there? Are we in a place where we can do that? is his profile and the way he plays a little too similar to Mbeumo and Cunha to where it would almost be a little bit of a redundancy? Do we need someone who's more of a tip of the spear? I don't know. It's not up to me. I'm putting all the information out there. Like I said, we looked at his percentiles, looked at his heat map, we looked at his numbers, goal, assist over the last couple seasons, looked at his strengths, looked at his weaknesses. It's up for you guys to decide, because now we're going to move to another player who we've been linked with. Debas says, why is YouTube acting weird? They don't act weird trying to take. Yeah, they are. It is a little weird today. It's kind of like it didn't show my chats for a hot second, and then sometimes YouTube will do that. So yeah, I'm glad that it's not just me. So I was worried that there's literally nothing I could have done. I do the same thing I always do. But Wilson, welcome to the channel. Newcastle are in for Sesko. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, this isn't strictly on the basis of, yes, United are 100%. This is, of the strikers we've been linked with, of the strikers we've been heavily linked with, these are the two that people seem to be split on in the United fan base, Watkins and Sesko. I didn't take Nicholas Jackson links very seriously. I don't really think Mateta is the guy personally. And you guys voted. You guys didn't. You guys, it was basically Sesko and Watkins. So that's what we're doing today. Taking a look. Cornish says Sesko is a beast, runs like a stallion, I assume, and hits the ball as hard as you can ever hit it. He hits the ball hard, but the question is not whether he hits the ball. I can hit the ball hard. The question is whether I'm going to score or not. And like I said, if you guys caught the kickabout last night with Dylan, you guys can go ahead and watch that when you're done here. Make sure you hit a like button on that too if you go do that. I watched a comp the other day of not just Sesko's good moments. It was his last 20 shots, basically, for the last season. It was a mixed bag. He missed a lot of really easy ones. He did score some good ones. That's the thing. That's why I put, like, one of his weaknesses, Sesko, is there's inconsistent. He'll score like these Osimhen type goals where it's just like, how do you have any business scoring that? But then some of the simple stuff he just doesn't do well. Now, again, I've said he's young, and so I don't expect the finished article, but it's not just about that. It's about the price. Do we want to spend another Højlund type price for another developmental striker? When, if you guys go back and watch those striker videos I did the other day, that was just 10. That wasn't even all of them. There are 10 strikers in that video that we looked at. First team strikers, Pavlidis, Jimenez, a lot of these guys who are scoring for fun over a large sample size who, like, would probably, Pavlidis probably costs a little bit, but some of those other guys, Arokadere, a lot of those guys would not cost anywhere near. So the question is, if you're going to roll the dice, and then we did that poll recently as well. If you had $100 million to spend, $7 million on one player, $30 million on which player would you spend more money on, a center midfielder or a striker? So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Debas says, I'm sure Villa wants $60 million, so they bring Sesko to. Cornish says $60 million isn't a lot for a striker. I agree. If you look at what Arsenal are paying for Gyökeres, I think that's an absolute steal. But is it a lot for someone like Benjamin Sesko? Was it a lot for Rasmus Højlund? Because we did pay more than $60 million for Rasmus Højlund when he was still just like 20 years old. And we are a bit paying for it now. We're probably not ever going to get that money back. The same with, like I said, Sancho, Antony. They're not strikers, but similar. We didn't get any money back for Lukaku. We spent a bit of money on him as well. We are in a position, unfortunately, at the club where we do have to really look at ROI. We do have to look at PSR. We do have a lot of that to work with. And I think that that's why I looked at that video the other day of, the strikers that I think could really do a job. Danny, you and I both like Arokadere. You guys know I like Mo Amora. There's a lot of them out there. Wilson says, I wonder why we're not all in on Watkins. Højlund needs eyes off him. I've seen games that have impressed me. There's a player there. Yeah, you guys know, if you've watched the channel any time, you guys know I do like Højlund. I think that we've let him down in some ways. I think that he's let himself down in other ways. So I think that everybody's got a little bit of the responsibility there. But the fact of the matter is that is it a situation where we go into the season and say, well, he's our only striker. We have to hope he delivers. I don't think we can do that. We have to try to do something now. Remember, going into the summer, my caveat was goal scorers. I never said we need a striker per se. I said we need goal scorers, and we did get that in Cunha and Mbeumo. So that's why we asked the question recently, like, what is striker spending huge on a striker still a priority, or with those two now, can we afford to maybe focus more on other areas? So as always, it seems to be more questions than answers when it comes to United these days. But You guys keep voting. I'm going to go on to Ollie Watkins now because we're going to talk a little bit about him. So keep hitting that like button for him if you haven't yet. Subscribe too if you guys are new. We are on the road to 3K. I did promise a giveaway if we get to 3K subs before the season starts for us. So we're not that far away. I do think we can get it, but it's all up to you guys. So let's dive in. Let's look at Ollie Watkins, shall we? Obviously, Aston Villa, we all know, we're familiar with him. I've seen anywhere between 40 to 60 million. I've seen today reports, I forget who there were, that Villa are not going to be selling him. We'll see. Money talks. Villa need money. They're in a PSR situation. I don't know who else they're going to sell. There are other players at Villa I would take before I would take Ollie Watkins personally. If they want to throw us Boubacar Kamara, I'd be all over that personally. Maybe there's an opportunity for a swap. We'll talk a little bit about that. But 29 years old, 5'11". He's good at chance creation. If you look at his assist numbers, he does know how to create chances for his team. He's versatile. He can play in a couple different roles. And I'm not saying in a starting 11 he's going to be playing as a 10 or a winger, but in the flow of play and given moments in the match, he can take on different roles depending on the situation. And he's really good in a high pressing system. He's got that physicality. Now, you can maybe throw the whole Premier League proven thing. You guys know I don't really adhere strictly to that because I think that there's a lot of examples of players coming from not in the Premier League and doing just fine. Bruno is another example of that. De Bruyne, Holland, these guys are excellent. Heung-min Son. But yes, the rumor is we are looking for a Premier League striker, so we'll see what happens there. Again, Watkins can be a little inconsistent in front of goal, and then I did throw in that question there is a potential weakness for him is maybe he's on the decline. He is 29. He'll be 30 in December. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why I think that. So keep voting. Watkins really is a modern forward, kind of like Sesko. Profile, physical, drops a little deep, can float out wide. He does a little bit of everything, combining pace, power, versatility, finishing. He's hardworking. Like I say, can play a variety of roles. He can drift wide to get on the ball. He can drop deep to play as a little bit of a second striker role. He can also be the main focal point. He can do whatever you really need him to do. He's really good. Another player who relies on pace. He's really good at utilizing the pace he has to get in behind the defenders, to exploit high lines, to exploit space. I think he's ideal for systems that utilize a high press, again, to win that ball up high up the pitch and launch those quick transitions. I really, really like that he can provide assist as well. This for his numbers. He's got a lot of good assist numbers. 8 assists in the league last season, 13 assists the year before, 6 assists the year before that. The 23-24 is probably his best season so far, other than his last season at Brentford in the championship where he bagged like more than 24 goals. But he does have a decent amount of numbers. So again, these are numbers that are very similar to what we've seen from Cunha and Mbeumo. So again, I like the idea of splitting the goal responsibility among the attackers and not just having one striker. Who was it? Enrique, is that who just said it? Like, I'd rather have like four attackers who can score 12 than one who can score 40 or something. Like, I don't mind that. I have no problem with that. But at the end of the day, I do like having an out and out 9 who will do the things in the box that no other players really are there to do. So I do like that. I wonder how necessary the assists are going to be with Bruno and Ahmad, but I'm not going to turn my nose up at it. What that could do too is maybe having these other guys in Mbeumo, Cunha, and having them kind of pitch in a little bit more. It frees him up potentially for not having to do that so much. You might see, for instance, his assists drop, but his goals go up in a United squad where he's got players around him who can find him a little bit more. Maybe his goal return can get back to where it was. Like Sesko, though, Watkins can be a little inconsistent. His composure can fail him every now and then in crucial moments. Much of his game is reliant on pace, too. He's already 29, 30 midseason. If he's already kind of rounding that wrong corner of his peak years and his pace, if that's your game, your pace is only going to decline a little bit. Now, he could take care of himself. He can elongate that. He can. But eventually, you wonder if and when that might go. I don't want to lose Watkins' kind of main attributes soon after we sign him. Now, he's probably going to be a stopgap if anything happens. But again, that's the main thing you're going to get. And again, is that the best fit for our system? Let's look at what he does here. This is where you're going to see Watkins get a lot of touches. Again, a lot of in the box, a little less last season than the season before, but he is able to drop a little deeper, drop into some wider areas to kind of get on the ball, turn, get other people involved, hold up the play. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. There really is nothing wrong with that. And then too, you got to remember he's an experienced Premier League striker too. Maybe Højlund, maybe Cheeto, maybe they could learn something. That was one of the things that I think we failed Højlund on. He came in and he really shouldn't have been the main guy. He should have had. I wish we still had someone like a Cavani or somebody there. We just didn't. Maybe Watkins can do that. Maybe if he has the personality, if he has that leadership, if he has that selflessness, that pragmatism to think about the club and the team, maybe he could do that. Danny says he bags goals, creates chances for 2 to 3 years. I wasn't sold on him either. More thought about it for the right price. It's a smart move, short term. Obi can learn under him. Yeah, and that was a question I posed the other day. If you look back at what Liverpool did with Virgil van Dijk, they wanted him. He was their main guy. Got caught for tapping up. They couldn't get him. They didn't just turn around and blow another bunch of money. They waited. And that's sometimes what you have to do in a rebuild. It's more about the player profile than anything. I would like if we had other options, but the top options are pretty much limited. Danny says 40 million, anything over, no thanks. Yeah, and that's really been the thing. And if you guys have watched the channel, you guys know that that's my main thing right now, is price for this guy. Let me get caught up here. Tobias says he ghosts in big important games, though. If any Cheeto learns from Mateta. You guys are funny. So I'm going to see. Tobias says if we buy Sesko, we could probably get loaned from Mwanu or Ramos that way. Yeah, don't forget about Gonçalo Ramos out there. You guys know he was featured in that video from the other day as well. Danny says Watkins is an expensive stopgap. Yeah, and that's my point too. 60 million for a 29-year-old for me is not ideal, especially when you consider the financial implications, which you have to do because you know that's what Ineos are doing. You know that's what any responsible director of football is going to do. They're going to be looking at that. That's an aspect. Now, I hate as fans, as United fans, that we have to consider that, but you have to because it's the reality of the situation we find ourselves in. You're never going to get that money back. You're banking on Watkins being the difference maker when it comes to trophies or really pushing for a European spot. And that's, even if you look at him as a stopgap, that's a lot to spend on a stopgap. It just is. Now, Dylan mentioned in the kickabout last night, and looking at it from the perspective of Villa, needing to do something, maybe there's a way to utilize Garnacho in this deal. If anything, Villa would be the ones who need to give us Watkins and then cash if they want Garnacho, not the other way around. So what you might see in any swap deal is, yes, it's a swap, but there's still money being exchanged. So on paper, it looks like the clubs, got some money. Newcastle, Forest did that with Elliot Anderson, for instance. But we'll see what happens. 40 league goals in the last 3 seasons is not a bad return for Watkins, but there are doubts over whether or not he's good enough. And that's the only doubt I have. Let's look at his percentiles here for a second. So again, kind of like Sesko, a little bit of a dip in some areas last season, but you can see last season, Villa really worked hard to bring in other runners around him. And you saw from the heat map that Watkins was dropping a little deeper, getting involved. So you see his carries and his progressive passing, like that got a little better. And then like the goal output kind of dipped a little bit. It is what it is. I don't have a problem with it, but it's just, you have to look at it. And you can look at the high press. He's got a lot of interceptions. So his interceptions went up like threefold, up in the top 26 percentile when it comes to interceptions. That's really, really good for an attacker, for a striker. It's very modern in the terms of what you're going to get. Nubis, welcome back. For 25 million, sure, go get Watkins. Any higher than that, might as well go get Sesko. Plus, Cheeto is only 17. Sesko is 5 years older. They won't hinder each other progress. Debasi does not think Villa are going to come below 55 to 50. Yeah, again, I've seen anywhere from as low as 40, 45 up to 60, and I'm just not spending that. But again, the 40 league goals in the last 3 seasons, to me, it's not bad. But again, it's just, is it good enough? I'd say that on its own, that return for me, in my opinion, all other things being equal, not what you would want from a striker. But again, with Cunha and Mbeumo, would it make a difference? You guys know I've never said Watkins is bad. I think he's very good. I said the opposite of Mbappe. I think he's good. The only reservation I've ever had is the price tag. It just is what it is. So we'd have to do something with the price, or else it's just a non-starter for me. Mune multiplier. Sesko is not going to United. We'll see. We will see what happens. Big up, Jarvis. Good to see you again, my friend. Hope you're doing well too, my guy. Big up. Kai, welcome in, man. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you again, Kai. Let's see. Just getting caught up on the chat here. Danny says Aroka Dairy or make a Biarritz, cheap gamble. Keep an eye out for the next news roundup. We will be doing a scouting report on Biarritz because you guys are You got a lot of you guys about Biarritz. You guys know I've been watching him just to kind of see how he's done since he's had his kind of a breakout season. But we will do a scouting report on him soon, so keep an eye out for that one. But we did do a scouting report on Aroka the other day in that video. Spoiler alert. So Kai says, is there a chance of a Javier Anthony swap? I'm going to be honest. Like I said this on the Kickabout yesterday. I'm not 100% confident that the Javier stuff is not agent talk in order to drive up some price or get a new contract. So Jarvis is on his way to the golf course. We'll be listening to the show. Well, good luck, man. Hope you shoot well. It's funny. I do every kind of golf except for actual golf. So I'll do disc golf. I'll do foot golf. I used to golf. Like I just don't anymore. I don't even have clubs anymore. So it is, but have a good time, man. Hopefully it's not as hot there as it is here. It is literally like 100 degrees today. It's disgusting. Nuba says, United needs to secure a loan for a striker. At the moment, other clubs know United are desperate, and which is why it's hard to get anyone for a decent price. It's hard to get anyone for a decent price because everybody's desperate. Villa are stuck in a PSR situation, so they don't want to have to take a low price for all these people. They just like Everton. Everton needed money. They didn't want to sell 3 players, so they demanded a lot of money for 1 player, Onana, and so they wouldn't have to sell Branthwaite and Ndai and everybody else. You get one good price for 1 player. It gets you a little bit of wiggle room for a little bit, and then you try to go from there. That's what Villa are going to do. Villa are already a little thin with the squad. They had a lot of loans last season. They don't have money PSR-wise. Need to try to do something, and so I mean, they already got busted too. So Wilson says, Sesko not scoring loads in the Bundesliga is a worry. Give me Watkins for 3 years. We've never been good. Yeah, and again, you pretty much have to go into this Watkins thing if you get him just knowing like that money's gone, which is also why I don't want to spend a lot because we have other priorities. We're already in a PSR hole. We just can't afford to make that happen. So unless we sell some players, I really would have wanted to get some actual money for Rashford up front. Garnacho needs to be sold. Anthony, you're not going to get any money back on Anthony or Sancho, but we need to get them gone. So let's see what happens. Debas says Anthony did blunder and said he only needs Pettis. Well, yeah, I think we're going to see some deals outgoings here shortly. Rashford's already been confirmed. Sancho, who knows what's going on with Sancho and Juve. I'm surprised we haven't seen more about Garnacho. The kid's young, only on $50K a week. A lot of good numbers last year. You think that he would have been the first one out the door, but I think some clubs, like someone else said, may be pressuring us a little bit. Nuba says, any good striker options from the championship? Well, we did feature someone who just got promoted from the championship in my video the other day. If you want to go watch that, a Leeds striker who's been actually having some really good numbers over the last couple seasons. So go check that one out. I'm not going to give too many spoilers, though. You guys got to go watch those. But make sure you're liking that video when you go watch it. Like this one, too, and subscribe if you guys are new. I'd love to get us to 3K as well before we get to the season. Debasi says, any striker that ghosts against Onana twice is bad. Let the games begin. So we looked at each one, Watkins and Sesko. So the question now is, how do they stack up against each other? So I know that's what you're all wondering. So this is how they stack up against each other in terms of your raw numbers. The old spider web, as I call it, here. So Sesko's in red, Watkins in the blue. Now, again, this is from the last year. So, again, we're trying to keep it relevant here and recent. No point looking at numbers from 4 years ago from some people. So, obviously, Sesko's winning a lot of aerial duels. He's literally half a foot taller. A lot of that is going to be height. A lot of that's going to be the way we're playing. A lot of what Leipzig were doing, find Sesko, win the ball, flick that on to Openda, who was another mobile striker. Watkins, not going to be doing that as much, probably. Both are pretty even when it comes to non-penalty goals. Watkins way ahead when it comes to XG plus expected assisted goals. He's also ahead when it comes to non-pen XG as well. So he's actually getting a little more opportunities. Now, Sesko's completing a little or making a little more passes, but he's not completing as many of them as Watkins is. Sesko's making a little more progression, but again, if you're not completing as many, it doesn't really matter. Pretty even, both of them, when it comes to carry, so they're good at taking the ball and up the field. Now, where it comes to the difference is Sesko is a little better at actually taking on a defender 1v1. He's miles ahead in terms of doing that. He does get more of the ball, as you can see, look by touches. He is way ahead of Watkins when it comes to touches. Again, that is more of a system thing than anything. Similar to Onana. I don't look a whole lot at keepers when it comes to their touches. That's just a system thing. Keepers who tend to have more touches are because of the way the team is building out from the back. So I'll leave it up on the screen for you guys for a hot second. So Nubis says, honestly, I'm more nervous about the deep-lying playmaker situation than striker. The way United progressed the ball for Leeds is very worrying. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Obviously, I'm not going to go too deep on a preseason friendly, especially the first one, but we know that midfield's been a problem for us for a while. We not only defensively, we seem to be cut wide open. It's basically a red carpet. But in terms of people who can, like Bruno is the only one who's been able to do the chance creation in the final 30. He's the only one who can take the ball off the defense and do something from deep. He can't keep doing both, though. Now, I think with Cunha and Mbeumo, a lot of that advanced stuff will help. And in this system, if both of those guys are going to start in the positions that you guys think they're going to start in, Bruno is going to play a deeper role. I would love another midfielder. You guys know we've done so many scouting reports on so many midfielders who are deep-lying playmakers. They're physical. They've got good mentality. Your Hackneys, your Kamaras, your Lucien Agumes, your Nemechas, all these guys. We've done scouting report upon scouting report upon scouting. Don't mention he who shall not be named. I will turn this car around if I see one J word pop up in the chat, everything, we're done. No giveaways. But there's lots of midfielders out there, and there's lots of strikers. You could literally take Sesko money and get 2 quality players, both midfield and striker, for one. Like, you just really could. And so it's not necessary to go spend the money. Jarvis, spot on, my guy. Big up. So let me see. Let me get caught up here. Debasi says, no one is a Bruno fan here. You're safe. You guys are funny. Wilson says, sad about Malacia. Nothing said about him. And if the season starts, he becomes a ghost again. The bomb squad. Yeah, you guys, I have nothing. Same with Anthony. I don't have anything personal against Anthony. I just don't think either are good enough. And I think that is more of a, for Anthony's case, I think it's not suited to the Premier League case. For Malacia, I just never thought Malacia was very good personally. Ten Hag had a bit to play in that because I don't think Ten Hag's talent identification was where it needed to be. And for a manager who really fought to have most of the say-so when it came to scouting and signing players, you can't have lackluster talent identification. And it just is what it is. Malacia and Malacia is older than people realize. The kid's like 26 years old. So yeah, Gume and Hackney are both really good, man. I would get Hackney. I would go get Lennon Miller. You guys know I love me some Lennon Miller as well. The problem is we have a lot of midfielders on the books right now. Casemiro, Ugarte, Collier, Menu, Bruno, Mount technically as well. Sekou Kone doesn't look like he's going out on loan right away. So what that means, couldn't tell you. If he sticks around, it's another midfielder. We have to sell. We just have to. We can't have all these wages on our books right now. It's going to kill us financially. So ideal world, Casemiro would have gone maybe to a Brazilian side or maybe the Saudi league, and he would have taken a pay cut to go to Brazil. It's not going to happen. Why would you? Collier, I would throw Collier in cash at Middlesbrough for Hackney if it were up to me. It's not up to me. Menu, not quite there to be a regular in the starting 11, but he's definitely a good rotation option for the time being. Ugarte, jury's out in terms of what Amorim thinks. He did not play a single minute in the final. Not really many minutes against Chelsea. Obviously, he was at Sporting. Amorim then allowed him to go to PSG, and now he's back. So who knows? We haven't really been linked with a ton of midfielders, honestly. So it's interesting to see what happens there. Danny says, sell Collier, cash leave. Yeah, I agree. It's so much more difficult to sell players than I think some people realize. And I'm not singling you out. I just think it's easy in one hand to say, just sell to clear the deadwood. It's just not that simple. Clearly, as we've seen, we've still got, we can't even get a full sale for Rashford. Like, he's on loan at Barcelona. So we'll see if they can even register him at this point, but it's difficult. And we put ourselves in this situation. The PSR situation that we're in, which is also very well known, does hurt us negotiation-wise. And that's not an Ineos thing. That's a Glazer, Woodward, Murtaugh, Arnold thing. They killed us for the long term. There was zero forethought there. There was zero proactive planning there. It was so reactionary and stupid. So again, the big question, how do they compare to each other? You guys can see there, you can break it down. And it's really kind of up to you priority-wise on what you think is most important. Nuba says, what's your take on Menu's performance versus Leeds. Honestly, man, I don't remember a whole lot of the Leeds match personally. I had it kind of on in the background while I was working out, so I didn't watch a ton of it. And I definitely don't read too much into the friendlies. It's really about fitness. It's about familiarity, trying to just get the system down more than anything. And so I don't remember. I don't remember a whole lot of the performances from that match, to be honest. I remember Casemiro getting involved a lot higher up the pitch, and I remember Cunha basically just always trying to get that ball forward, no matter who was in front of him, and he looked pretty dangerous. So that's about all I can remember, if I'm being completely honest. Rob, big up, Rob. Good to see you again. I will watch the match this weekend because it's at a decent time. I know United are in Chicago now, and so we do have a match on Saturday night. So I'll watch that one as well. But I just don't remember a lot from the Leeds match, to be honest. So apologies, Nubis. I just don't remember a whole lot from it. But so let me check the votes in the poll. Let me see where you guys are at right now. So still Sesko holding strong at 69%. We got 35 votes. It's a lot of votes. Watkins at 31%. So what is the difference maker for you guys? Let me know in the chat. What is pushing you? If there's a single thing that's pushing you towards leaning towards Sesko or Watkins, what would it be? Is it the age thing? Do you just like Sesko more than Watkins? Is because the price is up there for me. Do you think that we can maximize this potential? What's the big deal maker for you guys? Oh, did they sign? Nice. Stack. Yeah, I know a lot of people really rate him. Like I said, a lot of good midfielders out there. Stiller is still kicking around, isn't he? So, I mean, Stiller could be I think Stiller suits what we're looking for like a glove, personally, but I think that it's going to be difficult to get him out of there. Nubis says it's the age thing. Interesting, because if we keep Hoyland and we have Cheeto, like, I do still think part of me would want someone a little more experienced to kind of almost be a bit of a coach role. So if Shesko's here, would he still need something like that? So Danny says, neither, really, to be honest. I know Danny's all over the Irokadere. Rob says, Isak leaving Newcastle, could see them jump in for Sesko. Ollie seems to be staying at Villa. Yeah, these two, so Watkins and Sesko, obviously the ones that we've been pretty heavily linked with. A lot of the ones that the United fan base seems to be pretty split on. I don't know what would happen with Isak. Like, he has to have gotten some sort of an offer from someplace else, whether that's a city club or something, because where is he going to go? Like, honestly, where would he go? He's not going to Liverpool. They just got Ekitike. They're not going to Arsenal unless somehow the Gyökeres thing just completely collapses. And it would be, how funny would that be, though, if Isak becomes available, puts in a transfer request like he was reportedly done, and then Arsenal just completely drop their interest in Gyökeres and go. But I'm pretty sure Gyökeres is finalized. Somebody let me know. I've completely stopped following that. Once I got to a certain point, I just don't. Yeah, it's not really done anymore, is it? Yeah, I don't think it's 100% done. Galvatron, welcome back. That's the coolest name I've seen so far. I'd go Sesko, but why not offer Newcastle 60 to 80 million and Garnacho? So they've got Gordon, and who else? I feel like Newcastle got a wide player for their right-hand side. Someone remind me of who they got now. I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, Elanga. So would Garnacho start? Would it be worth spending that much for someone who's not going to start? Isak's going to require a lot of money. Now, he does help if he does actually want to leave, but again, in a perfect world, you're going to blow the bank on Isak, and you're just going to get him because he's gold. But I think he's going to want to be in Europe. Obviously, we're not going to be able to offer that. So it's funny. Everybody abandons the whole, if you only want Champions League and you don't want United, we don't want you here, until Isak becomes available, and everyone's like, go get Isak. Device says, Ollie deal was closed as soon as it went public that United want Watkins. That's the fastest short closure of an transfer talks I've ever seen. Rob says, Mitrovic being linked to us again if we don't sell anyone. Yeah, everybody's going to be linked to us. That's just what you get when you're United, man. Device says, Isak will say he wants UCL spot, not relegation battle. Well, last season is last season. This season is this season. We got to move on from last season. It is what it is. Obviously, we can't do anything about it. Can't change it. But it is what it is, man. Nubis says, I don't see United being a contender for the next 2 years. Watkins would be 32 by then. Cheeto only 20. Don't want United spend another 50 million 3 years from now. Might as well buy Sesko now. It's a big outlay, and it would potentially come back and be another Hoyland, but it could go the other way either. It just doesn't. Now there are a lot of strikers out there, so go check out that other video, learn a little bit more about those guys as well. We did a second video too on young future strikers, so like 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds as well. Go look at that one too. But I'm going to leave it there and let you guys kind of be the ones who to decide on your own. Again, this was never about making you guys choose one way. This is just putting both these guys up there head to head, looking at numbers, heat maps, profile, what systems they do, looking at their percentiles. And then, like I said, the web, showing you a little bit what they're all about compared to one another and let you guys kind of decide. They are very similar in many ways. They're also very different in many ways. And so there's a lot of things to consider. We'll see what happens with United, what we end up ultimately doing. I do think we'll maybe get a couple players. I'd love to get Lamens wrapped up if that's a legit thing. I'd love to get a midfielder. I just think our midfield is pretty bloated right now. So we'll see what happens. Supposedly the striker is a priority, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. You guys know I do check the comments. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. Check out the UVE store. There's a couple of products right below the screen, the video screen. You can check them out. It'll take you to the store. You can look at all sorts of stuff as well. Try to subscribe if you want to. We're getting on the road to 3K. Again, we'll do a giveaway. If we get to 3K before the season officially starts, I will do a brand new 25-26 shirt of your choosing. Name, number, whatever you want. I'll get that, and then we'll ship it off to you straight from United. So that's the plan. It's up to you guys, though. I think we can get to 3K before in the next couple weeks, but it's up to you guys. So until then, you guys, that's going to be it. Thank you guys for stopping by. If there's any big news, of course, we'll be stopping by later on. But until then, enjoy your day. Debasi says next stream. It depends on the news, man. You guys know that, I've got other stuff throughout the day, and I don't like to just sit here and rehash the same rumors over and over again. So when there's enough to talk about, we'll come back. It's been like every day, but it's not been like a news show every day. Some days are like this where it's like a more unique scouting report, but usually the news is at least every other day, so you can keep that up. But till next time, see Nubis. Now you're talking. Mohamed Amora, another player who kind of like a Sesko has moved into like a front two role, where at Union he was definitely more of the head guy. But you guys know I like Amora, so take it easy, guys. Debasi says you're a rare fish to catch. I can be. Like I said, this was meant to go later on, but I had to move it to earlier. So, but thank you guys for stopping by. Take it easy. Enjoy the next video when we see you guys there, and I will see you guys later. Bye.